Let's, I think, do the poster launch for Sheer Qorma. It's a story about love, love that has no conditions, love that has no boundaries, love that transcends the pre-decided societal norms. It's time to showcase Sheer Qorma, a film, a unique take on love and belonging. Please have a seat. Faraz, as everyone knows that you're the captain of the ship, what is your definition of love and belonging?
That's my film. It's you'll see it in my film. Firstly, thank you so much for coming, and I'm really grateful for Marijke D'Souza, my producer, to make this film, and for Shabana Azmi. She's not here. Shabana ji, thank you for doing this film. Divya, Swara, both of them, and Kalyani, Jitin, Priya, fantastic actors. I've just been very blessed and grateful that I got this opportunity to make this film. My definition of love, I think. I think every poet, every writer in this world has tried to define it, and we keep on defining it. I think it's an ongoing definition. It's like life. You cannot really define it in that sense. So I think for me, if I have to find one word for love, a synonym, I think that would be, I don't know, love. There is no definition for it. I think love is love. And I think that's a beautiful hashtag that a lot of LGBTQIA films across the globe, LGBTQI movements across the world have been using that hashtag, that love is love. There is no difference between a man loving a man or a woman loving a woman, or however you identify. Love is love. So
love is love. I think that calls for a huge round of applause. Ultimately, love is love. So Swara and Divya, the obvious question will be that did you have apprehensions about playing a same-sex couple, but considering that you guys have always broken the stereotypes, my question to you will be that how have you guys tried to give dignity to a same-sex couple, because many people believe in it?
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys. It's been a great number. It's lovely to see such a house full. Really, a big round of applause for you all. And just want to share with you all that, you know, we as actors do a lot of movies. We are fortunate that we also get to choose the kind of movies we want to belong to. But even that, I think this would really stand tall, because ये film बहुत खास रही है, बहुत खास रही है. About the dignity that you're talking about, I think people who belong to this community, that is dignified in itself. We don't need to really say कि इनको dignity हमें देनी है. हम कोई नहीं होते किसी को dignity देने वाले. We are just actors portraying two lovers who happen to be from the same sex, and it's as simple as that. And for me, things became really easier because Faraz and I have worked together from Stanley Ka Dabba, and he and I really bonded beautifully on a very emotional level, also creative but more emotional, I would say. Marijke, I've known from like 15, 16 years back with Sur. And Swara and I have worked on a Shyam Benegal film, but we never were paired, she's saying. Yes, so, and Shabana ji, of course. For me, it was a beautiful team to come with, and he came and narrated that story to me of Sheer Qorma. और कहीं से नहीं लगा कि इस फिल्म का हिस्सा आप कैसे नहीं बन सकते, ऐसा हो रहा था. Because I was very excited, I was crying, I was smiling. It's a beautiful relationship of two people who want to be loved, who want to be accepted by their own people. And I think to belong is a very important emotion. And here in this film, all that you will see is that urge, that feeling to belong. It's as much important to love somebody as much it is to feel loved. And that shows very beautifully in Sheer Qorma. So for me, it didn't really matter, do I have the same sex? Because we get along beautifully, me and Swara. And we were actors. Because you belong to, you're not from the same community, वो एक second का लगता है, फिर लगता है नहीं, you're doing a role, and it was as amazing as that. And ultimately what stays is that there are two people in love, and nothing rises above that. That's the most powerful emotion, which I think Faraz has brought in beautifully in the film.
Right.
So no apprehensions.
Sora, many a times in Bollywood, the way homosexuals are presented is rather stereotypical, the quivering of the lips or the effeminate body language. Do you feel it? Do you think it's important to showcase the same-sex people in a more human manner? And does that film, does Sheer Qorma does that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we have had most of the time that we've seen representations of same-sex kind of even emotion. I don't think we've actually even given it much space in commercial Bollywood at all till much later. And I think that there has been a certain kind of stereotyping, and I think that we've, as an industry, we've always dealt with it at a very surface level, you know. Ki, इस type का, like those boys or those, you know, those typical trope kind of characters. I think that that's been changing. There have been films that have tackled that and given more realistic representations, and I think it's changing. And I think that I just want to go back to the point of dignity. I think that it's all about how the writer and the person who's given birth to the story is seeing and dealing with his characters. I think that our job was so much easier because we already had characters who were being seen as just human. So those characters were already human. So they, as Divya ma'am said, there was no. I actually didn't even think of this question, what you're saying, of giving dignity or of breaking a stereotype, because it was already presented as just so normal to people and the story of a family. And every family has some or the other issue. This family's issue was this. So I think when the makers themselves don't make a big deal, and when in our own minds and hearts we're like, yeah, it's fine, this is a story of two other people, and of course we'll tell it in a true way, we'll tell it in as honest a representation as possible, then you get a story that is honest, that will not fall into stereotypes, and that will give dignity to the characters, to the story, and to the issue.
Marika D'Souza, this is your first film as a producer. What was it in the script that was offered to you by Faraz that you felt that you should produce it, and how does it all fall into place logistically?
First, I'd like to say good evening to everybody in the audience. Thank you for coming in. I've been producing films for a long time now as an executive producer, and when Faraz made Sisak and I saw it, and I reached out to him and I said, you know, if you're making something like this again, can you let me know? I'd like to be a part of it. And I think a year and a half ago, he met me at Mehboob's studio. I was filming on this same floor. And he said, I have a script, and do you want to hear it? I said, of course. And he narrated it to me. I said, when do we start? We had no clue who we were going to cast. I had no clue how I was going to raise any finances for it, nothing. But I wanted to do it. The reason being is it's important to tell stories as naturally as you can without putting them into boxes. This is a story of a couple. They happen to be same sex. You know, that's about it. And Faraz manages to do that beautifully. And I feel I want to produce content that allows people to tell their stories, because these are real stories. This happens in every second household. You just don't hear of it. So it's time we give all these stories, all these moments and emotions a voice, a platform for everybody to accept it and just breathe, live, and love. That's about it.
So Faraz, you've said that it's a gentle story with a backdrop of religion and sexuality. It's very obvious that they're a Muslim couple, and do you have apprehensions about any backlash that you may possibly receive?
I made this film because I believe in opening conversations. I think being a filmmaker is being in a place of privilege, to have access to change how people think, to change the way they dress, to change the way they speak, and to, in some larger sense, bring in a change in this world. You know, I think cinema is not just entertainment. I think it's beyond entertainment, and I think that's what we need to strive together to achieve. You know, I think we are not barbarians anymore. We don't need to sit in the Colosseum and watch a tiger fight a man. You know, we've come beyond that. So I think if films are not really going to open conversations, they're not really going to bring in a change in the world that we live in, what is the point of making a film? The legacy that I want to leave behind as a filmmaker is that I affected lives. Somewhere down the line, there was some sort of change, some sort of resonance that happened in lives of people who I have never met. And that's why I think it's an important conversation, because I identify as a Muslim, I identify as a queer person. So for me, it's important to talk about religion and sexuality also in the same sentence, because nobody is really doing it, and I don't know why. And I think given where we are at the end of 2019, we're going to enter a new decade. I think this is the time to open conversations. I think enough of being in the back seat and allowing other people to talk for ourselves. We need to go mainstream. We need to take the stage, and we need to raise our voices saying, we're here and we're going to talk about it until it becomes okay. I am gay and it's okay. I mean, it's cool. So I think that's a conversation that it needs to happen, and it needs to happen with love. It needs to happen with affection, and it needs to happen across the spectrum, no matter who you are or where you come from. I think our difference is what makes us stronger. Our difference is what makes us special. Our difference is what unites us. And I think that is the reason why I'm making Sheer Qorma as well.
Divya, what is the importance of companionship in any relationship whatsoever?
So I'm in a stage of my life where I think for me most important would be companionship. I was just talking to him and I spoke to her. We actually think we've become partners now. We keep shooting for films. He's just opened doors for us. So now we just finished another film where she and I have possibly played every role possible for two women. So, so she's playing my mother, I'm playing her mother, we're playing sisters, and now we are like partners here. So nothing left, I think, Swara. I think when people say that two women or two co-actors can't be friends, I think I've really chatted a lot with her, and I've chatted a lot with Faraz. Companionship, I think, is very integral, very integral. I think marriages or institutions like that, to each their own, I respect that, but I do feel what's more important is who's holding your hand when you're growing old, who accepts you for who you are with your faults, who loves you for your weaknesses. We being actors becomes sometimes very difficult because mostly people are in awe of you or they get intimidated by you, and they forget that there's a very vulnerable, sweet side to you which is also weak, which is also sometimes wanting to break down or cry or just feel a little low. So you need a companion who knows you for who you are, and I think that search is not very easy. So for me, I think what matters is not like, even if it is a long wait or whatever, it has to be worth it. It has to be somebody who makes you grow, makes you nurture, loves you for who you are. I wouldn't ever want to live a life of pretense and say, hey, I want to make you happy, let me be this, but that's not me. So with many trials and errors in life, I think I've realized, first of all, I need to fall in love with myself. I think I need to be my own best companion, and then find myself a companion who could hold my hand. So I think companionship that way would be very important.
Swara, what is your opinion? How have things changed post the historic verdict of Supreme Court on 377? And do you think that movies can play a part in creating a certain narrative?
Absolutely. I think that the 377 verdict was, it's a landmark verdict in India. I think a little late in the coming, but still, and kudos to all the activists and the LGBTQIA community and all the allies and the lawyers who fought that case. I just want to sort of give a shout out to them, because it's so, there are those decisions that shape the future of societies, and this was one of them. And to have built up that momentum and created that movement, I think that it's something so big that they've done for our whole country, for our whole society. Yeah, absolutely. We should absolutely cheer for them. I think films do play a role in making things acceptable. I think that the manner in which, for example, films like Tanu Weds Manu or Jab We Met, or all the ones that came later, made it okay for for the heroine to be wild and confused and still not be a bad girl, but just be like a certain kind of wild. And a lot of us felt like, okay, finally we're seeing shades of ourselves in that. So I think that similarly, I think it's time that mainstream Bollywood and other language industries begin to sort of be a little sensitive and I would even say responsible in how they represent issues issues that maybe are not personal to us. I always feel that it's really important as storytellers and as people in the creative field, and all of y'all will become various things in films or in the media. Just because an experience is not my own doesn't mean it's not legitimate. It doesn't mean, yeah, and it's such a basic thing, and it's something so easy to forget. This is true for religious identity. This is true for caste identity. This is true for sexual identity. This is true for gender identity. I think that at so many levels, all of us, and we all must be privileged in our own ways, right? That just because we haven't had an experience, we think कि नहीं यार ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है, नहीं इतना भी नहीं होता यार. अरे यार, अगर लड़की बोल रही है कि नहीं, एक सुनसान रास्ते पे अगर बाइक पास से गुजर जाए तो आप फ्रीज हो जाते हो. लिसन टू इट. यू मे नॉट हैव फेल्ट इट बिकॉज यू आर नॉट अ गर्ल. अगर कोई माइनॉरिटी कम्युनिटी कह रहा है कि इंटॉलरेंस है सोसाइटी में, लिसन टू इट. यू मे नॉट हैव फेल्ट इट बिकॉज यू आर नॉट फ्रॉम अ माइनॉरिटी कम्युनिटी. इफ अ दलित इज सेइंग दैट आई फील स्कैर्ड दैट आई विल बी लिंच्ड, लिसन टू इट. जस्ट बिकॉज इट हैजंट हैपेंड टू यू doesn't mean it hasn't happened to someone else. Similarly, if queer people say that we feel discriminated against and we feel like we don't belong, the least we can do is listen. I think that films can go a long way to create that kind of atmosphere of listening.
Marijke, what do you think? Web shows like Made in Heaven and four more shorts, please. Do you think, and the way they're being accepted by people in large numbers, do you think that they're helping in a way, just creating awareness about LGBTQI community?
Absolutely. The need of the hour is acceptance. You have to accept everybody for who they are, who they want to be, and where they want to go. So when you have stuff like Made in Heaven and all of this, very approaching the subjects very normally, very matter of fact, not like highlighting it, making it seem a bit dandy. No, this is what it is. It's just another relationship. You have to be able to just play it as another relationship. It's normal. Let's all understand it. Everybody is normal. So the moment we realize that, just like Swara was saying, everybody has their own experience, right? You need to accept their experience as an experience that exists without saying that it doesn't happen. So I feel all the platforms are slowly taking responsibility and projecting it to audiences who are lapping it up, who are happy. So let's credit the audience for accepting as well.
So Faraz, when an established star like Sonam Kapoor launches the promo of your short film Sisak, and when you have established stars like Swara and Divya supporting Sheer Qorma the way they are supporting, Shabana Azmi ji is there as well. Do you think it helps the entire LGBTQI community in a big way as well?
Yes, absolutely, because I think the whole purpose is that you need to start talking about it on a more central, on a more mainstream platform, right? I think that's when people will start taking notice. I mean, the reason why a lot of things are into the spotlight is because they have a stage, they have a platform to make their voices heard, to have their stories told, and that creates a big, huge amount of difference. To give you an example, in Tare Zameen Par, I worked with Amol, and I remember Amol was very adamant that he wanted Amir Khan in the film. Amir Khan in Tare Zameen Par comes at intermission point. It's never happened in any Bollywood film that a leading actor enters the film at intermission. But a Tare Zameen Par needed an Amir Khan for the audience to come inside the cinemas and watch it and talk about dyslexia. Right? I was working with Amol after that on Stanley Ka Dabba, and I remember every day we used to get at least 100 letters from parents across the globe thanking us for making that film. And it helps when you have someone of that stature, of that ability, who says, I am going to be with you and support you, like the way Shabana ji did, like the way Divya, Swara, Marijke, all of them. They come from very mainstream, very universal part of cinema, and when they decide to come and support Sheer Qorma or films that require a voice and platform, it makes a great deal of difference. I mean, let's be honest, I am here today on India Film Project because I have such fantastic people backing me up. Had this, I mean, it helps because they chose to support, they chose to mainstream the queer, and here we are talking about it. A lot of people from here, when they're going to go out, they're going to talk about LGBTQIA kya hota hai. A lot of people, I'm sure, in this room would also not know the right definitions. How many of you know what LGBTQIA plus means? And how many of you don't know? It's okay. I didn't know for many years too. Yeah. So, it opens conversations and opens conversations at a huge platform, which makes a difference. So when you have people who come who have such fantastic legacies behind them and they chose to bring their legacies into this, I think it's a world of a difference. I mean, when you'll see Shabana ji in the film with Divya and Swara embracing them and whatever happens in the film, it's going to bring a lot of parents across India. Like, I keep telling this, like, Shabana ji in my film is playing the Mother India of the 21st century.
Yeah, I
There's
was
a
about to
reason
ask you that. Why do you say that?
Well, you have to watch the film for that. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. But you have to watch the film because it's really, I mean, imagine if Amitabh Bachchan happens to star in a queer film and he has a queer son, and at the end of the film, he accepts and embraces his son. This entire country is going to talk about it, and they're going to take notice of it, and it's going to follow suit. People are going to start accepting when the apex of the country, now this being in cinema, of course, we're not talking something else, but if the apex of the country in cinema accepts, it's going to open a big conversation. And that's why it's very important for people who have legacies to come forward and support.
So I think there's a power of the visual medium, Faraz, because आप जो चीज़ें फिल्मों में सीख लेते हैं ना, वो आपको 10 round table conferences हों, we talk one-on-one like that, it'll just become a discussion. But when you see it on screen with the actors that you believe in or the makers that you believe in, and said very subtly, unassumingly, without rubbing it in onto people, I think people take it back home as something very normal. I mean, I do remember when we were seeing Made in Heaven, I have been party to a discussion where one person was saying, "Yaar, wo scene jo the na thode se matlab," and there was the other one saying, "Why? What's wrong with it? Don't you see the other ones?" There was a proper healthy discussion happening, which was not started by anyone. But what happened was a few people's mindset changed there, right there, watching something on screen. So I think what visual medium also does is, with these kind of stories emotionally told, is it seeps into your system without even you knowing about it. So that's the best thing it does. And I think Sheer Qorma is going to do it in more ways than one.
I want to share one thing which happened when I made a Sisak. Sisak screened at Bangalore, and there was this two siblings, I think they were 18, 19, they were sitting in the front row of the screening watching a Sisak. And I remember when I went back home, I had a DM on my Instagram from the sister saying that the brother went back home and he came out to their parents. And she said to me, and I'm quoting her, she said to me, "My brother is sleeping peacefully in the room next to me because you had the courage to make this film."
Wow.
And that pretty much defines my journey as a filmmaker. That defines all our journeys, the reason why we're here, because lives are changing, Faridoon, and we have to become those agents of change.
I've been seeing a lot of stuff of Ellen DeGeneres of late. I think she's a huge inspiration for me. So I was watching a show of her where Jennifer Aniston was doing an interview with her and Portia, her wife. So Jennifer asked Portia that, "What is it that you don't like about Ellen?" She said, I like everything. So Ellen said, "Say something, I'll take it." So then Portia said that, I like to cook for her. And so I've cooked something and I've prepared garnishing. It's at the right temperature. So a lot of emphasis was on the right temperature. And so she comes in and instead of having the food, she goes and feeds the cats. That's something that maybe I don't like it. So there was a whole discussion around it. So the idea is that people from any community, they have issues, and many a times when you're in a relationship, even little small things can be big.
I think that we tend to, when we think of relationships and same-sex relationships, we're only thinking of sex. Like, oh my God, and like relationships are so much more than just sex. I mean, relationships between heterosexual couples are so much more than sex. I mean, over time, I think sex is the least, is the shrinking part of any relationship. And no relationship can be sustained if you don't find like a field of other things, like ma'am was talking about companionship or friendship or humor or just fighting or resolving a fight or plans or goals or whatever. I think absolutely, I think it's so important to just normalize things, and also just to remind ourselves कि यार दिन भर सिर्फ sex नहीं हो रहा है. सेम सेक्स कपल्स नॉर्मल लोग हैं, वो नौकरी करते हैं, काम पे जाते हैं, घर पे खाना बनाते हैं, खाते हैं. इट्स ऑल राइट.
Because many times that's what people
I want to say
think
अगर
about.
दिन भर सेक्स भी हो रहा है तुम्हारा क्या काम है तुम अपना काम करो यार.
We'll just have a few questions from the audience. So if you can please raise the hands. Okay, so we'll have this one with this lady.
My name is Ishita, and I'm taking away from the conversation that you guys were just having about having an actor that's having a legacy, so that the Indian audience is more accepting of whatever you're showcasing about the LGBTQI community. Now, my question is relating to the recent movie, which is called Lakshmi Mom. Don't you guys think that it is a sort of a tokenism that is being done over there? Currently, also, the storyline that is arising in the movie is about a transgender person being occupied by the spirit of a ghost. More than that, what is problematic is that still nobody in the entire crew or cast of the movie is a transgender person, and the story is about a transgender, and still the main actor is a cis man. Now, I'm not saying you need to have a transgender person to portray a transgender on screen, but that, don't you think it's a little problematic that no narrative is being taken from the actual community instead?
I don't know if you know, but my feature film, the first feature film that I would like to make, is about a woman who identifies as a trans woman. And I actually decided to make this film last year when I actually reached out to Marijke to produce my film. Unfortunately, it took me a year to go around India to find a trans actor to play the lead in my film. After 9.5 months of spending in casting out of my own pocket, I did not find a trans actor. So what I did was I hosted free acting workshops for the trans community. I did it in India, I did it in Bombay, I did it in Delhi. We had about 60 participants, and we did it with the Keshav Suri Foundation. However, what is a fault of the system at large is that we have never allowed trans people to even consider acting as a career. It's a failure of all of us sitting in this room that we have never given access to a community to even consider कि आप acting कर सकते हो. They're fighting for their basic necessities. They're fighting for food, clothing, shelter. A lot of them are into sex work because nobody wants to hire them. So there is a large system which is at fault, which we need to fix. I don't know the answer to that. As a filmmaker, I know what I can do, and I know that I will still continue searching for a trans actor to play the trans character in my film, because it is my film, and that's what I believe in. But I think to each their own. When I made Sisak, a lot of people asked me, are the two actors, what are they, LGBTQI, what spectrum? And I said, I didn't really ask them. They were actors who agreed to do it, and that's why I went ahead. Even with Sheer Qorma, they are brilliant actors, and you want good actors for your film. Having said that, I do not at any cost mean that, look at Pose, Ryan Murphy's show, right? But see, that's happening in America because they started this conversation way back in the 70s. So it took them 40 years to come where they are to make a mainstream show about trans women or trans people of color for that matter. We are still we've just opened up this conversation. It's going to take us a long time. But I think, personally speaking, for me, I would still continue and I would still root for casting a trans person for a trans character, because it is very essential for the community to have the right representation. That's what I believe in. But my journey as a filmmaker, no comment on what other people are doing.
Who's next? Let's have someone from the behind. Maybe this guy. Please mention your name and then. Okay. Who are you asking?
मैम it's like मैंने आपका फिल्म देखा था on the YouTube, The Shame. So उसके बाद से lots of respect. So one experience from that film which you want to share with all of them.
He wants you to maybe share the experience.
Yeah. Hi, मेरा नाम स्वरा है. शेम बहुत खूबसूरत एक शॉट थी जो मैंने करी थी, जिसमें आप लोगों में से अगर जिसने नहीं देखी है उनके लिए, एक होटल में काम करने वाली एक जो हाउसकीपिंग स्टाफ है उनकी कहानी है. इट वाज अ वेरी ब्यूटीफुल स्टोरी, बिकॉज मुझे लगता है कि हम लोग कितनी सारी चीज़ें ग्रांटेड के लिए लेते हैं ना, कि हम सोचते ही नहीं हैं. और एक ये भी आई थिंक नेचुरली वो आता है कि अगर हमने किसी चीज़ का पैसा दिया है तो फिर हम ओन करते हैं उस चीज़ को, उस चीज़ से एसोसिएटेड जितने भी लोग हैं. आई थिंक जैसे जैसे हम अपने जीवन में बढ़ते जाते हैं, या तो पैसों के तौर पे अमीर होते जाते हैं या फेमस होते जाते हैं या सक्सेसफुल होते जाते हैं, आई फील एंड आई एम ऑलवेज वेरी स्केर्ड ये मेरे साथ ना हो जाए. दूसरों की इंसानियत ना भूलना बहुत आसान हो जाता है क्योंकि आप खुद अपने सक्सेस और अपनी खुशी और अपने सेलिब्रेशन में इतने बिजी हैं. एंड आई थिंक दैट शेम ने वो मुद्दा बहुत खूबसूरती से हैंडल किया क्योंकि एक्चुअली मेरा जो किरदार है उसने करी है गलती, लेकिन शायद बहुत छोटी सी इंसानियत से भरी ह्यूमन मिस्टेक है वो, राइट, जिसके लिए इतना बड़ा पनिशमेंट देना ज़रूरी नहीं है. सो आई थिंक मेरे लिए द टेक अवे फ्रॉम दैट फिल्म एंड द वन थिंग आई रिमेंबर मोर दैन द इंसिडेंट एंड वो सब तो चलो था ही, भीगना अपना शूटिंग का जो एक मेस होता है, बट आई स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग कि यार हाउ डू आई ट्रीट माई स्टाफ. मेरे जो अपनी पर्सनल स्टाफ है, मेरे घर में जो लोग काम करते हैं, मेरे सेट पे जो लोग मेरे साथ काम करते हैं, या मेरे जो हमारा सपोर्ट स्टाफ होता है, और एक्टर्स के लिए काफ़ी बड़ा सपोर्ट स्टाफ होता है. एंड शेम करने के बाद काफ़ी दिनों तक हर बार जब मुझे गुस्सा आता था या मैं डांटना चाहती थी, मेरे को एक थोड़ा गिल्ट टाइप की फीलिंग होती थी कि यार मैं ज़्यादा तो नहीं कर रही, मैं क्या उनकी पर्सपेक्टिव नहीं देख रही, मैं भूल रही हूँ. सो इट वॉज अ वेरी ब्यूटिफुल एक्सपीरियंस फॉर मी. एंड आई थिंक दैट यू नो, जैसे मैम कह रही है ना कि फिल्में ऑडियंस को बदल सकती हैं, ऑडियंस की मानसिकता बदल सकती हैं, अक्सर बार फिल्में और कहानियाँ एक्टर्स को भी बदल सकती हैं और एक्टर्स की भी मानसिकता बदल सकती है. एंड दैट्स व्हाई शेम वाज वेरी स्पेशल फॉर मी.
One from this side, maybe, okay, that girl with the specs. And please mention your name and then to whom you're asking the question.
Hi everyone, my name is Noila and my question is to Swara ma'am. So you've always had a very strong political opinion, and as we were talking right now that people who have a legacy have a great impact. So what do you think, why people with great legacy do not come up and voice their opinion, and if they had done so, would it be very constructive or destructive?
You know, we worked very hard यार to make this film. कृपया आपके सवाल पिक्चर पे रखिए, बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती है पिक्चर बनाने के लिए. आई रियली अप्रिशिएट इफ द क्वेश्चंस आर नॉट गेटिंग पर्सनल अबाउट एक्टर्स. लेट्स कीप इट टू द फिल्म. वी आर हियर, वी आर ऑल फिल्म मेकर्स. यू कैन फॉलो स्वरा ऑन ट्विटर and post the question. I'm sure if she likes it, she'll respond back.
Yeah, I think that the introduction was a good reason why people with legacy don't want to get involved in too much of controversial opinions, because I think that the host was very generous when he said that I'm loved a lot and also hated a little bit. So I think that as public figures, you're more vulnerable to a lot of destructive negativity, and I'm sure everyone on this, Faridoon ji also receives a lot of sort of anger oftentimes for his very rational sort of comments and interviews and so on. Faraz has, Marijke has, I have, Divya ma'am has. I think that at a very simple level, I'll just say that if we want our public figures and people with legacies to speak out and take sides and take responsible sides, then we have to become a society that doesn't punish people for doing that. All right? I lost 4 brands the day I campaigned for the Lok Sabha elections for whatever candidates, right? I lost 3 events through, I mean, the hit that my work took at the end of that experience. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm so great. Not at all. I'm probably very stupid and very foolhardy. But I'm just saying that if you're going to make the stakes so high that a superstar can just talk about, report a dinner conversation and then have so much flack, or another superstar can just give his opinion and his car can be stoned on a shoot, then how can we rightfully expect people with legacies or public profiles to actually risk lives, families, careers? Why should they? Why should they when you and I are not doing it, right? So I think we have to ask ourselves questions as societies, and I think that Sheer Qorma, I'm 100% sure that Sheer Qorma is going to create a debate. And I'm being polite when I say debate, all right? And thanks, Faraz. That now I will have another community hating me as well to add to my list of haters. But jokes apart, but I think as Faraz correctly said, that I think that as artists, people who have voices, we have to take our convictions seriously. We have to respect our own conviction and sometimes we pay a price for it, and hopefully not a very high price. But yaar, kabhi life mein you have to stand up for your conviction. And hopefully we will move, thanks to young people like y'all who are thinking this, asking this, we will move to becoming a society where we are not scared to stand up for our convictions. And I think that's the effort at some level with this film as well.
All right, so we'll have one last question from that side.
So can
आपका
we
नाम
first
क्या
go
है?
here? Yogesh is here, so can we just take Yogesh's question?
Okay, sure.
Faraz, quick question was, Sheer Qorma has been spelled very differently in different platforms. And I see a very different spelling right behind you from one which you tweet. So you want to tell us what the real spelling is?
This is the real spelling now, because initially it was called Khurma, but then I happened to meet this wonderful radiating personality in my life called Shabana Azmi, and she pulled my ear and she said Qorma. And I was like, okay, I apologize. And so now it's Qorma. Also, I think it's kind of cool because it's queer. So it's like Sheer Qorma, so it'll kind of like, it's like Qorma. So when I like take the film internationally, I'll be like, with my American accent. And no, but it is Qorma now. Yeah.
Okay, that red guy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hussain, and my question is to you, Faraz sir, that why is it so necessary? Since we were talking about a certain thing that after a movie debate usually starts about a topic, so why has it become so necessary to have someone from a established background to choose such a sensitive topic? ऐसे ही कोई नॉर्मल कैरेक्टर्स को लेके ऐसी स्टोरी हम क्यों नहीं बता पाते हैं? कभी भी कुछ भी रेवोल्यूशनरी कुछ लाना है.
क्यों मेरी नौकरी छीन रहे हो?
So yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
You're saying why take actors with big, why take the big stars for
So I'm not questioning the talent, sir, but I just want to know कि ऐसा क्यों करते हैं? ऐसा क्यों ये ट्रेंड क्यों बनता जा रहा है?
ये ट्रेंड मतलब trend being getting big names to back films
Sir,
that
आप
need
ही
support.
आमिर खान का नाम ले रहे थे सर
जी,
थोड़ी देर पहले.
जी.
So just like वो एक छोटा सा ट्रेंड था कि इंटरमिशन तक कभी कोई लीड नहीं आता था, उन्होंने
Correct.
स्टार्ट किया. That was a small thing.
जवाब
So
तो
the
सुनिए आप.
yeah, I understood your question and thank you for your question. I'm going to ask you a question back, and you being like you, but everyone else in this room, how many people genuinely crossing your hearts, if Amir Khan was not in Tare Zameen Par, how many people from India would have actually gone to see the film? How many children films after Tare Zameen Par have come that people in this room have gone and seen, which are talking about very important things, including child labor? How many of people saw a film that I worked on called Stanley Ka Dabba?
Yeah, beautiful film.
No, that's the problem. The problem is we don't want to watch new faces or talents that are not recognized internationally or nationally. We want names because this is how we are built, right? It's a system. So when I'm trying to make a queer film about queer Muslim women of color, I want big names so that this conversation gets spoken about in larger rooms. It becomes a mainstream stream topic of discussion, not just in elite circles, not just in circles of privilege, but it goes to your tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 and beyond. है ना? ये जब ये पोस्टर आएगा, ये पोस्टर न्यूज़पेपर में छपेगा या जहाँ पर भी छपेगा, people are going to see it and talk about it. Why? Because it has Divya Dutta and Swara Bhaskar in it. That's the thing. Why is that a thing? I don't know, man. The world is kind of fucked up.
But
What can
also,
do?
I think you're in business, my dear. यहाँ पर business करते हैं सब लोग, पैसे लगाते हैं. Creativity तो है ही. मतलब ये producer
Also,
बैठे हैं
I
हमारे.
think, yeah, I think Marijke should also talk about it because,
Yes.
you know, money right here. So,
If you saw the amount of people who raised their hands when Faraz asked how many saw Stanley Ka Dabba, how many would have seen Tare Zameen Par without Amir, I can count the amount of hands. And those hands are not even recovering the travel of the actors to the shoot. Forget the cost of the film. Okay? So when we put our money and try to get a film made and get it across through all mediums, and we're talking about something that's important, we also need people to come in and watch it. And if we had an audience that did not rely only on star power, I don't think then we would have such issues. But reality is that all of us will not go and see a film unless we are interested in the actor's work. It's not necessarily even a star. It's about an actor's work. So you sometimes need established actors, especially when you're talking about conversations and topics that need to be spoken and get through all our audiences in every sector.
Hussein, it's what you're saying is actually it's quite important. You're absolutely right that the value of a story should be in the story and not in the stars who are enacting the story. Absolutely. But I think that the way in which the system is structured and the process of making a film, and when you make a film and when you suddenly realize that you want a Priyanka Chopra to play a Mary Com as opposed to actually a Manipuri girl, because you know that that story will reach so many more people if Priyanka is telling is the face, and as a maker you want your story to reach maximum people. So it's a sad catch-22 actually, very honestly speaking. And I think the way to change that is something Farooq sir once gave an answer to someone, where he told the audience ki aap dekho na theater mein jaake wo film mein. That is the way to change it, is when the films which don't have stars, which just have concept and are good films, start making money whichever way, on the box office, on by DVD, by whatever, by winning a prize on a film festival, whatever. That's how a producer like Marijke will have the confidence that no, I can put this money and I can find a way, whatever way, to recover it. So I think that we really also have to focus on distribution networks and focus on the fact that the power is, the power is with us as audiences. We all have Twitter accounts now, we all have Facebook accounts now, we all have Instagram. You can all give your stars, you can all tag the producers, you can all give your own reviews. That is how films like Newton have got made, right? That's how a Tumbad hit the theatre. That's how a Newton hit the theatre and made money. That's how a Nilbati Sonata was able to get out. That's how an Anarkali got talked about. So I think it is possible. I mean, I hear
you just ask yourself, आपके आसपास कितने लोग हैं when a film releases? Do you ask, be honest, film का hero कौन है? Do you ask that? How many people ask that? Everyone. Change that first. Learn to change that. Watch a film, like it for what it is, give it your own ratings, as she's saying. और चीजें change हो रही हैं. Even if you had Bareilly Ki Barfis and all these films coming, you've had big producers backing it. So we've reached somewhere midway. We still have a whole lot of journey to, just cover up. But it's happening. It's surely happening.
Sure. Article 15, for example.
I want to ask you a question. Did you watch my first film, Sisak? Did you? You know how many screenings we had in Bombay? 5. You know how many awards my film has won? 50 fucking 9. Nobody came out and
59, yeah,
why? Because बड़े actors नहीं थे यार. कोई big names नहीं थे तो कोई देखने ही नहीं आया picture. Nobody showed up. But the film has won 59 awards. It has such a big. It's now become India's first film to have won 59 awards. How many in this room have seen Sisak? There. Look at the answers right in front of you. That's why. And having said that, I personally, when I wrote this film, I wrote this with Divya Dutta in mind. And it was an honor to have her. The day I sent her this script, I remember she called me. She was crying on the phone and she said, "Thank you. When are we doing this?" I wrote it with Divya in mind, and then Divya was the one who actually kind of played the orchestra, the master, and she said, "I see Swara playing Sitara. I see Shabana ji playing the mother." She sat back and she made all this happen. So I'm saying, these are incredible actors, and I think they need to do way more films than what they're doing right now.
I know, man, I'm not.
Right? Thank you, Swara.
Okay, so can we have one girl, and that'll be the last one.
Hi. My question is to everybody on the stage. We get some experiences when we have to say one thing, but people interpret it in their way. So, and at that time we are left alone. So, how you all have helped yourself to come out the situations like this? Yeah. Have you had such experience?
Always, all the time.
Yeah, exactly, ma'am.
You're facing something like that, experiencing something like that.
No, not at all.
बहुत दिल से निकली आवाज आपकी. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. No, but listen, जो दिल को सही लगता है ना, there's something most important in your life is your gut feeling.
Yes.
गट जो बोलती है ना, जो मन कहता है instantly वो सही होता है. And listen, don't listen to other people. They all come around. They all come. जब एक्टर बनी थी ना, मुझे सबने कहा था, nobody spoke to my mother. They said you're banned from the family, from the friend circle, nothing.
Yeah, that's the.
And then everyone came around because you stuck to your gun saying नहीं मुझे तो एक्टर ही बनना है. मेरी माँ ने कहा नहीं बनना है इसको एक्टर. She wants to be. And when this your focus, they come around. मैं आपको एक बात बोलती हूँ, फरीदून आपको शायरी का बहुत शौक है. चमन में मुख्तलिफ रंगों से बात बनती है. हम ही हम हैं तो क्या हम हैं, तुम ही तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो. हर तरह के लोग होते हैं. आप अपना देखो, जो आपको खुशी देते हैं, जो आपको प्यार करते हैं ना, वो कभी आपको नहीं छोड़ेंगे. Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We'll end this with one quote that I've read from one of the interviews of Faraz. I think it's a fabulous quote that he has given, that given the world we live in, cinema has to be used as an active tool of bringing in social and political changes that we desire. A filmmaker is as powerful as the leader of a nation. Cinema has to get beyond entertainment. So if I can have views of Divya and Swara on this.
Entertainment, today's mantra I think for the audience is entertain करिए, लेकिन साथ में जो आपको कहना है बहुत subtly कह दीजिए. Audience इतनी intelligent है, they're so sensitive these days, they pick it up immediately, and that becomes the mantra for everyone. So I think a great combo of entertainment and that little thing beyond entertainment that you need to say is a great thing. That's why you have good stories these days, that's why you have good directors, good actors coming in. It's party time for everyone because you have a fabulous audience coming in who are accepting it, absorbing it, and saying we want more. That's why your biggy films probably are not doing that well, and your story-oriented, content-oriented films are doing much better now. So I think a big round of applause for you, the audience.
Okay, Swara, last word to you. We have these heated discussions on religion. These days, art is a religion in itself. Why do you think it's important to treat art as a religion?
Oh no. I think we have enough religions in the world than to treat than to make art a religion as well. I think art should be a faith. I think that, and just to take from that, I think that as I was saying when I was answering the other question, that art should be about faith, it should be about conviction, and it should be about freedom. It should not be something that should be bound by rules, by procedures, by bureaucracy, and by what other people think and want, and by other people's sentiments. I think that we have to, I don't believe that any art of worth can be created in a society that is fearful, in a society that is overtly controlled, and in a society and in an atmosphere that is overtly sanitized. Because stories by their very DNA are messy. They are about human beings who are messy, who are flawed, who are weak. And that is why we want to hear those stories. The power of art is that it can create empathy. एक बहुत hit film का dialogue था कि films are just entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. I don't think there is a more limiting understanding of what films are or what art is than that dialogue. Okay, I think that art is powerful. I think that art has the power to transform, actually to lay the seeds of social transformation. Because when you watch a film and you come out of that film, or a performance or a music, whatever, you come out of that audience, of that performance, and you have one new question in your head. That means that a seed has been sown for some kind of transformation. That is the power of art. So yeah, I absolutely think that art, I'm scared of the word religion, but I definitely think that art is about faith, it's about conviction, and it should be about freedom, because it has so much power.
So I think this panel deserves a huge round of applause. So if you can just, standing ovation, I think they deserve a standing ovation, don't you think? They deserve a standing ovation, right? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Faridoon.